Welcome to Modern Entrepreneur. I'm Landon Ray. This is Gene Hammett, who turns everyday entrepreneurs into forces of nature in their market. He sorts through the complexities of business strategies to help clients stand out. He's been a business leader for over 20 years. He started and ran multiple million-dollar companies. He's a coach, speaker, author. On his podcast, Leaders in the Trenches, Gene's interviewed hundreds of world thought leaders. He's been featured in Forbes, Success, Business Insider, and Inc. magazine. He's also a contributor to Entrepreneur magazine. Thanks so much for being here, Gene.
Awesome to be here.
Really appreciate it. So I said I wasn't going to ask you about your decision, but you wore the pin, so tell me about your decision, Gene.
So I just came off stage at the Ontrapalooza event, so thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And I shared a couple of moments in my life where I was emotionally frustrated and just really connected to where I needed to move forward. So I shared with the audience about making these decisions. And one of them being at the end where I talked about a book that I wanted to do 5 years ago, which is here, The Trap of Success, which we could talk about. But my decision as it relates to business was that I wouldn't be like everyone else. I wouldn't be just another business coach. I wouldn't try to fight against the markets. I would want to be different. I would want to be seen different. And if that meant I didn't apply to everyone, that's okay. I want to find the ones that are right for me. And the way I do that is through what I call emotional connectivity. And you know, kind of the speech I gave is called Be the Choice, Not a Choice. And that's my decision was to do that in my own business, in my life.
Well, I'll be curious to hear exactly how you did that, but I think we'll get to it in a second. So you've been at this for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Which is a long haul. Actually, right before we got on, you just said to me, doesn't everything take longer than you think it's going to?
It does.
It does. So tell me what you would have told yourself if you could like fly back in time and give your young self, your younger self, a bit of advice on how to make it all easier. What would it be?
So I started a business in 2010 that really took off fast. And got to $1 million right away, and not a lot of profit, but $1 million in sales. Yeah. That proved my point, and I was able to scale that to about $5 million, building the team and whatnot, and I began to coast. Honestly, I began to, I made a lot of money, I had free time to do this, and I wanted to do more, I wanted to innovate, but I wouldn't let myself, I wouldn't let go. I was trapped by my success, right? That's the reason I wrote a book, because I got to the point of financial freedom, but I wouldn't go forward. So if I were talking to my younger self, I would say, take more risk, calculated risk, be smart about this, but actually go and do the things that are inside you. Don't ignore them, because that's what I missed, and it caused a lot of pain in my life later because I didn't pay attention.
So just to like nail it specifically down, you got to a certain level of success, and then suddenly you had something to lose, and so you stopped being willing to take risks. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
What you're saying to your older self is don't stop, basically.
Don't stop growing. Keep going. Keep innovating. Keep pushing. Keep going for that next thing. And it's not necessarily more money. What I was really missing was significance. Yeah, interesting. The ability to contribute to the world and make an impact. I was making money. Yeah. And I thought that was enough, but I was empty. And so that's what I would go tell myself is like, do that thing that you wanted to do that makes a difference in the world, and everything else will be better because of it. You'll be happier, and the money will still come.
And also I think it's a thing that helps us get through those tough times, right? Like everything does take longer than you think, and if you're not doing it for a reason that actually matters for you, then you don't end up making it through, right?
No, you won't. You'll stop, right? How many times have people stopped because they weren't grounded enough into where they were going and what they were doing? I mean, I heard your story today about your product roadmap. I mean, great story of, well, we thought it would be 4 years, or we thought it'd be 1 year, but it was 4. Yeah. Right? Exactly. It just takes longer, and you've got to be committed to that. And that's something that you have to learn and see for yourself. And that's the reason. That's another thing about my decision. I committed. I didn't turn back, and I won't turn back.
So, what is it you think your unique skill set is that you bring to the table?
Good question. I talk about uniqueness on stage, so I should be able to answer this question.
Good. Well, let's see.
I have built many businesses and grown them. I work with hyper-growth companies, companies that are growing at 1,000% a year. Whoa. And I help them really understand some of those challenges of chaos and really keep moving forward. Some of it's about some of the things that they were missing, some of those foundational positioning elements. So when I'm working with companies, I really do help them come up with new ideas. They're looking for something different. So I'm a strategist. I look at what they have, what's available to them, and I can come up with new ideas that are very powerful, usually pretty simple, that they can test and iterate on. That's another one of your messages, yesterday about testing smart things. Like, most people aren't testing enough and not quick enough. It's a great example yesterday in your speech. When my special skill is about combining strategy with what's going on inside the head. Yeah. We do stop ourselves. No matter what it is, if we think that we can't do it because we lack something, or we're not enough, or we don't have the skills or experience, we stop ourselves. And I've stopped myself many times. I mean, I didn't, I told a story about my business not moving forward. I stopped myself. Yeah. So I'm working on the internal as well as the strategic. I don't get in the tactics, but I'm really quite, this is genius level what I think I do with the strategy and the mindset stuff for entrepreneurs.
It must be a challenge. Like, if you're working with 1,000% growers, those are rare, right? Yeah. Either they're rare or they're like tiny little businesses that are growing from $10 to 100 or whatever. But these are hard businesses to find. What are you doing that's working to have you attract these kind of businesses as customers?
So I have just finished some research and report and conversations with about 45 CEOs of the hypergrowth companies. Yeah. I had a few clients make the Inc. 5000 list, and I'm like, okay, what are other people doing? So I reached out to them, much like I've reached out to you, and I interviewed them. Yeah. And I have talked to them about their disciplines of hypergrowth, and I am basically shaping the next book and shaping some of those elements, and it's already producing that. So, I was able to easily get into conversation with 45 really busy CEOs about what made them, and then a lot of my clients want to know that information. Yeah. Right? So, and some of those conversations, being honest with you, where if there's a fit for what I do, we would move forward that conversation, and I'm doing it. It doesn't scale very well, I'll be honest with you, but I'm validating those points and having those conversations and in deepening my own knowledge and just getting really clear about hypergrowth. Yeah. So that's turning into new relationships and new clients.
Yeah, well, it's actually interesting if you don't mind like me laying out how that happened from my perspective.
No, go ahead.
Because the strategy is a wise one. So many people come, especially if you're like aiming at targets that are hard to reach. People that are hard to reach for a reason. It's because we get hit up like 100 times a day, right? And everybody gets hit up 100 times a day anymore, right? It's not just CEOs. Yeah. It's like we're all just getting bombarded, right? So how do you reach out? Yesterday, I was talking about being relevant, but another thing that you've really nailed is not just being relevant, but bringing value to the table, right? Like, the initial conversation with you wasn't, hey, Landon, let me pitch you my services about whatever. Yeah. It was, I write for Ontrapreneur magazine. I want to do a story about you. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Which is interesting because I think most people don't think through all the possibilities. Like, that's real strategy, right? That's all the possibilities that they could bring to the table for for how to get the conversation started. Like, it's not impossible actually to write for Ontrapreneur magazine. You could go like, what can I bring to the table for a CEO? Maybe I can figure out how to write for Ontrapreneur magazine online and like go out and make that relationship and then bring that to the table, right? I mean, is that like...
That was my plan. That was part of the be the choice kind of step into authority. Yeah. I was blogging on my own website and, getting some traction. But let's be honest, like in the beginning, it's kind of... It hurts, the pride, to put something out, you put a hour or 2 hours or 3 hours into, and then it gets 7 views.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
So I just started looking at like, well, what are those ideal people reading? So they're reading Ontrapreneur, or they're reading Inc. magazine or Success magazine. Yeah. So it's like, well, how could I write for those platforms? And so I intentionally reached out to them. So I started writing for Ontrapreneur a couple of years ago. Yeah. And picking up on one of the things you said, we're all busy. So I've learned, sometimes the hard way, we want to make it about us because we're trying to move our agenda forward. Right. But if we slow down a little bit, we actually can speed up. Make it about them. Yeah. I interviewed you 3-4 months ago. Article's coming out on Monday, by the way. Yeah. I think I told you that, October 9th.
All right.
And you're one of the 3 people I featured in there about, $1 million marketing secrets.
All right.
Right?
Who knew?
I don't know if you knew.
I didn't.
But I made it about you to build a relationship,
Yeah.
and it wasn't to sell you anything.
Yeah.
It's like, what happens next? Well, I am interested in what you guys are doing, so I said, hey, how can I support you guys at your event?
Yeah.
And so I started talking those channels, and that actually led me to the stage,
one
an
thing
hour
after
ago.
another, right?
So some of those things, you have to slow down, take a breath, and be intentional and move forward. So, and that's what I've learned, and we want to speed them up. Like we want to send out 200 emails and get the response, but maybe that's not the best choice sometimes.
Yeah, being strategic.
Be strategic.
Yeah.
Be personal.
Yeah.
I sent something very specific to one person to say, could I interview Landon about this?
Yeah.
I needed to put someone in this space.
Right.
I had a couple other great people, and you were going to be the third.
Yeah. So the question then is like, what can I bring to the table to create those relationships? Like, when we have no leverage, kind of like nothing to offer, like how do I build leverage in a conversation? How do I build leverage in not like leverage in a bad way, but like literally what value can I bring to the table? If I don't have something of value, then like how do I put that together so that I do, right?
So great question, because a lot of people go, well, I'm not writing for entrepreneurs, so what do I do? So what do you have available to you? What are the skills? What are the strengths that you have? If you're in business and you're creating some value, let's assume that you are, how does that allow you to help others?
Yeah.
Right? For one of my examples, Derek Hart is a web design company who works with speakers. And they were really figuring out how to really go deep into this whole speaker thing. And I introduced him I said, make a list of strategic partners that you would love to have on your list. And one of them was a coach to speakers. And he was able to have a conversation with him. Now, he went a little bit beyond what I thought would happen. He actually said, I'll do your website for you.
Oh, wow. Nice guy.
That's a big investment.
Yeah.
But that relationship paid off. That relationship moved to the next level, and she was so, the contact was so grateful for that. She's been over backwards to refer business to him for 18 months or 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's been almost 50% of his business is the referrals that came from that one relationship.
Yep.
Some things don't scale.
Yeah.
But use your specific skills, like Derek did, or like I did with you, to build those relationships that could move forward. And don't try to pitch yourself too early. Don't hold back on that. What do you want? And just try to give first.
Yeah. Awesome. So, what for you is like the cutting edge? What is the thing you're wrestling with? The challenge you're trying to solve? What are you learning right now?
I mean, I'm trying not to plug this, but this is
Do
it.
it. Go ahead.
This is
What
it.
is it? Yeah.
This is book. This book is the story I talked about before. It opens up with a very touching story. Painful for me. Hopefully entertaining for others. I lost $3 million in one day.
Oh yeah.
And it caused me to relook at my life and stop chasing money and start chasing and really focusing on significance. And so the trap of success. Some people go, well, I haven't reached success yet. I don't need that. But what if you wanted to make sure you avoided this and you actually got on the right path? Because many of us go get the success trophies. So, my biggest challenge right now moving forward is how do you get this in more people's hands?
Yeah.
I had a great moment that I'll share with you that I've never had this moment before, but it really kind of touched me in a special way.
Yeah.
Flying on the plane to come out here. This is my only copy. This is what they call a proof, right?
Oh, awesome. There it is. It looks good.
The proof is so I can look at it, hold it in my hands, and make sure there's no typos. We fixed them. Now it's coming out, on Tuesday.
Good. Congratulations.
And I'm sitting next to a woman, and she goes, "What's your book about?" And I said, "Significance." Just one word. And she thought about it, and she said, "I've kind of been struggling with that. Like, what could, would that book help me?" And I'm like, well, "Why don't you read it? Like, read much as you want. It won't hurt my feelings, but read the introduction, and if you like it, you'll probably love the rest of the book." She reads it, Landon, and a few minutes into it, she's crying. She's got a tear coming down her face. She's like, something's been going on inside me, and I've been ignoring it for too long. And this is opening me up. Can I finish? Can I read the rest of the book? And I'm like, you can't have it. But we got 4 hours before this plane lands. Go as far as you can. She got to page 133, and she was just absolutely, at the moment she was giggling, and I didn't know I wrote jokes. And I'm, what are you giggling at? And she's like, oh, this is so true. This is so true. I struggle with this. I have that kind of doubt. And so she's like, this book changed my life. So I've been nervous about getting it out there in the world, but I think this book will change people's lives. And so biggest challenge I have going forward is how do I get more people to know about this and want to take that chance forward, read it, actually apply it. And I think it's well worth that time investment. It's not the money, I'll be honest.
Of course
it's
not.
the time to read this and actually internalize it and go, what will I do different because of it?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm jazzed about, is getting people to know this message.
Well, I look forward to reading it. How do we get it?
thetrapofsuccess.com.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Easy. You've been at this a while. You got obviously some career ahead of you still. What, if you think forward a decade or two, what would you like to look back and have your legacy be?
More impact, more service, more philanthropy, more giving back without worrying what comes in return. Being able to write a check for something and knowing that it's going to go to do something. Working with whether it's hypergrowth people or maybe it's the people that are merging into hypergrowth, help them really get clear about where they're going and create that business that is the choice, not a choice. I mean, I could see me riding this wave for a long time. I don't think it's going to get old.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be less competition. I don't think there's going to be less content. I don't think there's going to be less noise.
Nope.
I think it's going to get even more important that you understand these principles and you become the force of nature that you can be within your business and activate your teams. Like when I say I work with hypergrowth, I work with teams to help them understand how to put everyone in this. And I was sharing with you the other night about the importance of putting the entrepreneur spirit inside the company.
Yeah.
Getting them to feel ownership, getting them to really feel like they're a part of what we're doing and contributing is a big part of probably your success. You have a young team, right? They want to contribute.
Yeah.
So one of my big legacy things is writing more books, speaking on more stages, maybe dancing on stage like we talked about before, because that's a new thing that I've been putting in and thinking about. But just doing that so that I'm impacting people.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And serve my family and serve, the people around me.
Yeah, good. So we call this thing Modern Entrepreneur. We're trying to point at what is it that's unique about this kind of moment in history where everything is changing so fast that you can't keep up, but you still have to figure it out in some way. What do you think it is that is unique about the kind of the opportunities that we have today, the responsibilities that we have today as entrepreneurs?
I think a lot of the reason why we aren't moving forward and making the impact we want is because there's too many opportunities. There's too much distraction.
Yeah.
There's too many options that are pulling us a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. So one of the points I talked about on this is where could you go deeper? Where could you be really going deep? I interviewed 45 CEOs of hypergrowth. That's deep. So I really think one of the big things going on for the modern entrepreneur is how do you let go of that shiny object? How do you let go of some of those things and pick the one that you can just iterate on and improve? Some of the things you just talked about, like how do you find that smart idea and you just test the hell out of it and really iterate till you make that impact? Yeah, I think this moment in time, there's too many choices, and that's keeping people stuck.
Awesome. Gene, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Would you sign our wall?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Which wall?
The one right behind us.